Representative Lane, thank you so much for being with us today.
Welcome to the People's House.
What was your reaction to the governor's State of the State address this week?
Well, if you listen to the governor's State of the State, you would think that New Mexico is essentially first in every important metric, but unfortunately we are dead last. I was disappointed in a couple things. One is she didn't mention CYFD at all, and that has been a huge issue for all of New Mexico. You're talking about our most vulnerable children, and that agency has been a failure. I mean, there are actual deaths that are occurring within that organization, and to not mention what we're going to do to try to tackle that in that 30-day, I thought that was a gross oversight. That's one of those where silence speaks volumes. The other thing she didn't mention was anything about agriculture, oil and gas. We have a $3.5 billion surplus because of oil, and so that was something that I found disappointing as well.
The governor had a big public safety agenda, and some of it, can you work with some of it? What about pretrial detention?
Yeah, pretrial detention is a huge issue for New Mexico, particularly in the metro areas. We have a problem with career criminals getting arrested, rightfully so, and then released prior to trial. So these aren't folks that first-time offenders. These are folks that have proven time and time again that they're going to repeat offend. And so there's no reason that career criminals should be released prior to trial.
And yet you're a lawyer, they are innocent until proven guilty. Mm-hmm. So we have a tension here between individual rights and the rights of a society, right? So how do you feel about this when it comes to these public safety proposals? Because half of them are gun measures, and that's an individual rights issue, right?
I'm a huge fan of liberty. It's one of our foundational concepts. But the reality is whenever you violate the law repeatedly, you've now forfeited your right to be released prior to trial, right? So you still get your trial by jury, still get your day in court. If you're innocent, you can be released. But the fact that you're a multi-time felon, I think that's enough to say, well, we're going to keep you in until you do get released. Now, when it comes to guns, one of the things that the governor literally said is she doesn't want to infringe on essentially the rights of law-abiding citizens, but that's exactly what her gun proposals are doing. If you look at our crime, if you look at whether it's a mass shooting, it doesn't matter. Almost without exception, you have folks that are felons committing those crimes, and for those, they don't follow the law, right? And so it's already unlawful for a felon to own a firearm, to possess a firearm, but still they commit a crime with a firearm. So to me, the answer is not more laws, right? The issue is we have got to tackle it at a foundational level, and for me, that's something like mental health is a huge issue, and it's also, again, combating career criminals.
Philosophically, when we're talking about infringing on people's rights, it's okay to keep someone who's already committed some crimes in jail before trial, before they've been proven guilty, because they have a track record.
Yeah.
But what about forcing people to undergo treatment for substance abuse?
So, I think I look at it more of exploring concepts like how do we keep people from becoming career criminals, right? I think that's sort of one of the foundational questions, and we have a concept to where you create these triage centers, if you will, where law enforcement comes into contact with an individual, they're having a mental health crisis or a drug crisis. They don't have a laundry list of offenses in their past, and so they can make a decision and take them to one of these triage centers, and where that person can receive mental health treatment, drug addiction treatment, and stay out of the criminal justice system and get the help they need and get their life back in order. And if they can't follow those terms, then we pursue the criminal justice track. Right now, what we do is we just send everybody to jail. We send everybody through the court system. And inevitably what ends up happening is you end up learning how to become a career criminal, and that's the cycle that we want to stop.
Now, when it comes back to guns, the GOP has been fairly disciplined on this message. Democrats, not so much. There's still some, division in their ranks. Do you have friends that you're going to work with across the aisle to try and defeat some of the governor's gun control measures?
New Mexico is a very interesting state. It's a Democrat state, clearly, but there is wide support for the Second Amendment on both the left and the right in this state. It's part of our tradition, whether it's hunting, whether it's shooting sports, whether it's self-defense. And so I see these gun laws being highly unpopular with the populace. And so I suspect that there will be some Democrats. I hope that they will stand up and vote no, because I think that's what the people of New Mexico are wanting and demanding.
Now, public safety stuff aside, we're here to do the budget. what are 3 things you really want to accomplish with the budget?
So, one of the things that we've been pushing is we want to grow the economy and not the government. And so in a 30-day session, it's all about the budget. But what we've seen a lot of times in the past with the budgets when they roll out is they're expanding state government, expanding state government, expanding state government. But when you talk to the people on the street, they don't have great experience with state government. And so it doesn't seem like we're actually fixing any problems. And so if we're going to spend money, I think as a legislature, we need to look at things like infrastructure, one-time spending. Let's not do these recurring spending projects to where in future years of the price of oil tanks, now we're trying to scramble and cut programs, because that confuses citizens too. So I think let's look at bridges, roads, those kinds of things. Water is a huge issue. Let's tackle water projects. These are all one-time spends that we can do now that we have this much revenue without obligating us in future years to continue to spend that money.
Thank you so much for talking to us today.
You bet. Yeah, pleasure.
Senator Baca, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham outlined her priorities for this session during the State of the State speech on Tuesday, and she included a package of gun control measures. This is an assault weapons ban, raising the purchase age to 21, a 2-week cooling off period or waiting period. And the Republican Party has made itself clear that this is an affront to responsible gun owners. But, this week especially, are we talking about responsible gun owners? We just saw a gun fall out of some lady's purse in a restaurant in Albuquerque and shoot a 73-year-old man in the head. So my question is, does something more need to be done for the non-responsible gun owners?
There are non-responsible gun owners, and there's non-responsible people that drive cars and non-responsible others that maybe don't do as well as they should in some other areas. But what we don't do is we don't punish an entire populace for these singular individuals when there's an occurrence like that. Essentially, what she's asking the legislature to do is to pass bills and turn into law restrictions on people that otherwise abide by the law, rather than focusing on the criminals themselves. In the past, Republicans and others have introduced a number of very common sense crime measures geared towards keeping people behind bars and punishing those that do wrong. We'd like to focus on that instead of actually barring the general public from exercising their constitutional rights.
Well, I'm not surprised to hear you say that, but I was a little bit surprised to see her package, her kind of tough on crime package, which includes, banning panhandling, mandatory treatment for drug addicts, keeping people in jail before trial, and also some tougher penalties on burglars. But what do you think about that package?
Well, one of them is something that we can work off and sounds like something that could be implemented in New Mexico, which is the pretrial detention and the rebuttable presumption. But the other bills, look at them. Panhandling, is that really our biggest crime issue in this state? When we lead the nation in pedestrian deaths, we lead the nation in other things like auto theft, we have high murder rates. That's what we need to be focusing on, these repeat offenders that keep committing these heinous crimes, rather than this somewhat of a facade that we're going to do something about crime, but we're really not going to introduce anything that's effective.
So, the governor also said, I'm moving to education here, that her goal is for New Mexico to lead the nation on educational outcomes. Currently, we're 50. So is there anything in her package of proposals that you think could move us up to lead the nation on education?
Well, she promised us a few years back the moonshot. Let's take the moonshot. Where have we gone from there? We've really moved nowhere. I think the proposals that she has are band-aids at best. I think we need to look at restructuring what PED is and how they work. We need to look at more local control from school boards that are elected by their communities, rather than having PED lay a heavy hand across the whole state. And we need to consider things like freedom of choice as it pertains to education, and allowing people to keep some of their money and seek the educational services that they desire for their own children.
I know a lot of Republicans are chafing against this governor's proposals right now, and in fact, you've got a bill that would restrict some of the powers of the office of the governor.
That's correct. Basically, what it would do is it would just limit the public health orders so that the legislature has some authority and say in the matter rather than having an executive that can has carte blanche when it comes to these health orders. We just saw a massive overreach this last month when she used a health order to restrict guns. Once again, a blatant violation, and even the federal government through the court system stepped in to restrict her from implementing that policy. And so this just really is common sense. It would apply to her and any other governor occupying that office going forward, and it gives the people a say in the matter. Rather than having a monarchy, we can get back to a democratic republic, which we are.
We're talking all about guns and stuff like that, but really this session is about the budget. What are your top 3 things you have got to see in this budget before you go home?
Well, one of the things that I am seeing that I wouldn't like to see is this increase in the budget. We are now at $10.5 billion projected budget. When I got here just 7 years ago, that number was 5.8. Anybody who thinks that is sustainable is kidding themselves. We can't support this kind of spending going forward. I wish we would practice more like we do in our own homes, where we save for a rainy day. We plan for when times aren't as good, and we do have a good time right now where there's a plentiful amount of money thanks to oil and gas and the extractive industries in this state. But we just need to use common sense approaches to the budget like that. This stuff isn't that complicated. We're pulling the wool over people's eyes when we spend money like we are right now.
Senator Baca, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time today.